Stream is live. And
Yeah, we live, baby. We live. We're gonna give it time for everybody to jump on here. Give it about 30 seconds before we get started, Coach.
Okay.
I would like to welcome everybody to the second episode of HBCU Football Coaches Corner, hosted by myself and none other than the illustrious SWAC Championship coach, Johnnie Cole. Coach Cole, before we get started, just want to know how you doing today, Coach?
Man, I'm doing wonderful, man. I'm way out here on the West Coast in the Baja of Mexico.
Oh, man.
Yeah, just enjoying the time, man, and some relaxation. You know, we had a fall break.
Hey, Coach, does it feel kind of funny taking a vacation in the middle of football season?
Man, hey, ain't no question about it. Usually you be glued to the film room and making sure you're getting up and having those morning meetings. But hey, man, you got to do what you got to do. So it's just this time that I took off. And matter of fact, I passed up my homecoming at Texas Southern.
Oh, man.
But I will be watching football this weekend. I'll be on my way to Dallas, Texas to watch the Grambling and Prairie View game in the State Farm Classic.
Can't stay away, huh, Coach? Can't stay away.
Yeah, but those weekends got to be somewhere smelling some grass, watching some good old college football.
All right, Coach. Let's get into it. The first block of our show, we're going to discuss Deion Sanders and that prime time level butt whooping that Oregon gave him and the program. I must admit, like you say, I'm a big prime time fan. But as you watched it unfold, Coach, what was your reaction?
Well, this game was gonna come. The greatness that him and his staff and this football program has done deserved all the accolades they were going to get. And they just ran into a wall. And if you're a football guy, you should expect it. The TCU game, TCU played the national championship last year, and you come back and you beat that program because it's about programs. And as you know, Oregon is one of the perennial top programs in the country. So it didn't surprise me. And it shouldn't surprise no football guys. I know Prime them got to lick their wounds, and they got to be able to come back and get ready to go. They got another prime time football program that they got to play. So nothing surprised me about the game, and I look forward to watching them again this week against USC.
All right, Coach, okay. Let me ask you. Have you been in that spot before where you've taken a beaten handily and then had to come back the next week? What is your mindset when your team has been beaten soundly? Okay, let me just put it like this, Coach. After taking a thorough beating like that, how do you get past that, Coach?
Well, one of the things, you got to tell your football team is you take your negative and make it a positive about where we need to be, where we gotta be to be the best. So that was one of the things that that I was still in my team, and watching the film tell too, how close you are. They still got to do some recruiting. This is a very young program. You just got to lick your wounds, and you can't let this game beat you twice. Meaning that you can't carry it over, and you can't start second questioning your players nor your coaches and what you're doing in the program, because you have made some great strides. Nobody in this world would think that Colorado would be 3-1 at this time. Everybody thought, well, yeah, Deion gonna bring some players in, and eventually we're gonna get good. But he's a bowl team now. I guarantee you, and I'll put my check on this, that they will go to a bowl game this year.
Yeah. So in looking at the game, Coach, how much of what you saw is correctable? And then how much of what you saw is not correctable in what Colorado put on film last week?
Well, correctable and incorrectable. One thing about the only part that you can't correct is that you got to get you some more dogs, as they say. I mean, you got to get some more players, and you can't recruit in the middle of the season. But I think the whole thing's correct. I think playing the quarterback spot, I didn't think that Shador had a good game. I think sometimes, and I'm coaching now, that he plays on stats. Sometimes when they lock your men up on the outside, then in my mind and me teaching the quarterback is you got to make us win. Well, how do you make us win? You got to start turning into like a running back and getting up inside. A lot of times he got sacked by trying to get outside. Sometimes you got to keep your eyes down the field. I know he's been getting hit a lot. His feet is starting to move a little bit, and all this stuff is natural. But sometimes he's got to get up inside, and if he see him running off with his guys, he got to get up there and run. And if he can get some runs and get some first downs, that'll loose his thing up. But he just kept trying to get outside, finding the guy, but sometimes you got to keep them eyes downfield.
Yeah, Coach, let me just ask you this before, because Shador is going to be key to any success that they have, right?
Right.
You fully understand that, right? And having he's been prolific the first 3 weeks of the season, absolutely prolific. There's no other way around it. And I guess what I'm asking you is, what do you do having a game like that? A guy that's been prolific, right? Coming into a game that against USC that you're going to need his best, right? How do you think they're going to start the game off trying to get over the bad taste or the bad memories that he had from Oregon? Can it linger on from Oregon to USC? And as a coach, are you worried about that when you're going into your next game?
No, at this joint in Colorado's team, their coaches know where they weak at and where they strong at and where they good at. And they just got to find some answers on how to get the ball out of his hand. As far as coaches should do, no player is bigger than the team. And sometimes you got to coach them hard. You got to be honest with them and tell them where they making their mistakes at. You can't, because he make a big play, still don't correct him. Every football play, you can correct somebody on every football play, And those are things that where coaches get away from falling in love with your players to continue to be a coach. Not watching the film, and I'm just going by my, view of experience. I think he made a lot of mistakes. I think a lot of those sacks, even when he was at Jackson State, he had calls on his own, again, not stepping up inside. And it's tough when 4 men can beat you up front, and somehow last week against Colorado State, they had that number 9 kid that was causing problems. And they had another kid in Oregon that was causing problems. So they're going to have to change up their blocking schemes a little bit, maybe put him on the bootleg some. And the biggest thing about Colorado is they have no run game, And I think, coming into this, they got to be able to get into some formations and maybe take a lineman or two and get him on the edge. And they gotta do some things with the ball as far as running the ball, because putting it all on Shador's shoulders when you play in those type of teams will get him hurt.
Coach, you that's a great analysis that you're saying that Shador made mistakes in this game that caused the outcome, right? Yeah. Now, that's not something that Deion said publicly, right? But as a coach, you were able to see that, right? You were able to see that he can improve, his game can improve. Now, the running game, not having a running game, is that a a function of not good running plays, not good play calling, not being committed to the run, or is that a personnel deficiency?
Well, once again, you have to be in there as far as when you're talking about personnel. But that has something to do with it. And having been committed to the running game has something to do with it. You got to be committed to it, and in the first 3 games, they throw the ball 40 times a game. That's not being committed to the run game, And I believe, in my coaching experience and to win championships, you got to have 2 things. You got to have great defense and you got to be able to run the football. You can throw that thing all around, and if you see who win the national title, ain't nobody that's running the spread throwing 45, 50 times that won a national championship, nor a Super Bowl or anything. You got to be able to run the football. Most teams that win championships, they do those 2 things they do. They run the ball well and they play good defense.
Well, you're right about that, and that's been the case with football for a very long time.
And I'm a throwing guy, Rocky. I like I said, I played the game, and my offense has broke several passing records and all that. But as a young coach, I learned that you can do all that razzle dazzle, but when you gotta run that ball and you gotta come up with some first downs and you gotta keep your defense off the football field, you gotta be able to run the ball.
The one thing that I'll say about the running game, and it's not often spoke about, but I think it's an integral part of, the game itself, is that it seems like the running game kind of keeps your team in rhythm, so to speak. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You don't have to, I guess, search for a play all the time, or so to speak. You can go ahead and you got things you can do, or if it's just really just taking the easy call, you know what I mean? Right. Just taking the easy play. Like there's a world of difference between 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 4, isn't it, Coach?
Ain't no question. One of the things that we always talked about when I've coached is we want 3.5 yards of play. So when it comes to 3rd down and we get 3.5, we got a first down. And that was one of the things that I've always told my team. And you got to be able to call plays where you're mixing it up, and you got to do things that you're good at, and sometimes you can get in the game, man, and you've watched film on a team, and next thing you know, they got what we used to call a Jomo cousin, a kid over there whooping tail in the trenches, and man, he'll mess your whole game plan up. So that's very important. When you look back at Colorado and TCU, they were out-coached. TCU were out-coached. They came in, they took Colorado lightly. These young offensive coordinators, they want to swing in and they want to be known as the gunslinger, and we got this offense that's going to score 40, 50 points. Sometimes you got a pound and ground. You know what I mean? You got to win the game in the trenches. And TCU, as if you remember back, kept getting down the red zone trying to throw the football. And I guarantee you, they kicking themselves in the butt knowing that that's what Oregon did, dominating the game against Colorado last week. They jumped on them. They never let up. They knew that they were bigger and stronger. And in an older program. So my hat goes off to Oregon in their game plan versus Colorado.
Coach, I want to play, speaking of that game, before we move off of it, I want to play a clip from the coach at Oregon, right? One is going to be of his pregame comments. One clip is going to be of his halftime comments, and I just want you to listen and give me your reaction. I know what's being said in the in public discourse, but I want to really get your opinion on these comments that he made. They both were very impassioned, I'll say that. Let me see. Hold on, that's not the right clip. All right, here we go.
Rooted in substance, not flash, rooted in substance. Today, we talk with our pads. You talk with your helmet, right? Every moment. The Cinderella story is over, man. Right? They're fighting for clicks. We're fighting for wins. There's a difference, right? There's a difference, right? This game ain't going to be played in Hollywood. It's going to be played on the grass, right? It's going to be played on the grass. Let's go.
All right, that was the pregame speech, right? That was the pregame speech. Let me give you his halftime comments, and then again I'm gonna let you. Here's his halftime comments.
We're playing for wins. What kind of message do you feel like your team sent with this win?
Yeah, they're ready to get better. They're hungry to get better. We're certainly not satisfied, right? This is one game. Now we're on to the next one. We got to focus on the next one. There's a lot that we can improve from that game. Fun, energetic on the field, but our guys have a standard to uphold.
How would you describe the defense's performance this afternoon?
They did a good job. You can't overshadow out of that. Right, we're going to face some elite teams. We get to play great quarterbacks in this conference right now. So we're certainly some to get better on. But they did a good job today. They've held the standard.
Congratulations on a great win.
Thank you so much. Have a good one. Go back.
Now he did. Now I don't know if you heard him, but he said we're not done yet. He said we're not. He said we're not. He said we're not done yet. So tell me. Let's first off his halftime. I mean his pregame speech.
Well, man, his pregame is in-house. I think he has every right when he's in-house to say whatever he needs to say. And, I've heard coaches say worse thing than that. But it seemed like it really cheered his team up, I mean, it wasn't like they were rah-rah ready to knock the walls down and come outside. Maybe they had some questions. The thing that I didn't like about Coach at halftime is he kind of got personal, what he could say inside the locker room, man, more power to him. But to come out and tell people, oh, well, you watched it last week, and we ain't done yet, and you up what 35-0 at halftime, and you got control of the game. That's kind of personal, man. That's one of those deals. Like, are you trying to win the game, or are you trying to embarrass Coach Deion Sanders? I think it's cowardly, really, because if I got Oregon and I'm over a program, I'm ahead of the game. I'm saying, look, hey, they made drastic improvement, but we Oregon, and we coming here and we supposed to win this game and we supposed to dominate it. I'm kind of like Deion. I ain't gonna be talking underneath my breath and all that kind of stuff. If I got a whip and I got a great team, which Oregon does, I'm not going to take no shot at somebody that's up and coming, because you can't take away the greatness and the good things that Deion Sanders has done, and especially not that way, because at the end of the game, we coaching young men and we trying to develop them in a way that they can go and be very constructive in community. So I can't give Coach a hat off. You did what you're supposed to do. Everybody expected Oregon to come in there and win, and if you didn't, you don't know football that well.
Yeah, I mean, what it seemed like to me, he at one point he wanted to look like he was the underdog in some regard, and then all of a sudden he's gonna put the hammer down, in a game where he's already up by 35 points. You know what I mean?
Right. His
team had played well or whatever. There are going to be plenty opportunities for him to show how good his team actually is. Being a 21-point favorite, actually, I don't think that was the game. And he came in, with the fake punt, going for two. Like, he did several things in that game where you knew Coach felt like he had the better team. He felt like he had a good plan, and he was able to expose, Colorado for their weaknesses.
Right.
But I think more important than their weaknesses, the advantage that Oregon had is that Colorado just came off a very emotional win the week before. Can you just briefly talk about that and how that can impact a team's play coming off an emotional win and then having a pretty stiff competition the next week?
Well, I mean, ain't no question that last week, the week before, and every week with these kids, Colorado is one of the top football programs today in the country, by none. All in the media, they're on television, primetime TV last week, primetime TV week before, primetime TV against TCU, primetime TV coming up this week. They got all these celebrities, they got a lot of things of distraction. And let's face it, man, one of the best players in the country didn't play, because Travis Hunter can lock down your top wide receiver and get an extra man in the box to help stop the run game. So yeah, ain't no question that these kids are under a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? Prime Coach Deion, he know what to do. He knows how to talk to them, and he knows that he's got to get them back focused. Back focused on what this really thing is about. Yeah, the bling bling, the glasses, but we got to go on that football field and show up, because now, like he said, we coming, and then now he said we here. Now you are a spot. They got a target, on their shirt. And they still young, you know what I'm saying? And they not understand. They got to learn all that. They got to learn all that. You got to bring your A game every week. People, you got a popular coach. People want to be Deion. And if I was the coach and I'm playing against him and I'm coming in there with a whip, I'm trying to put it on him too.
Hey, Coach, last thing before we move on. What do you, like you mentioned, this game is on prime time. It's going to be the marquee game for the week. What do you expect out of the Buffs coming up?
Well, I've seen USC last week against Arizona State, and I was a little surprised, but they got some boys up front. Great quarterback. Probably the best quarterback in the country, got some wideouts and things like that. But Colorado they got to establish some run game. They got to be able to establish a run game, and necessarily not having so much success, but say that we will run the ball. Number one. Number two, they got to keep their defense off the field. The defense is playing too much on the field. Shador, he's gonna have to learn how to let the ball go and throw people open. He's so used to holding the ball so long, and then when the guy pop open, he can put it on him right now. Sometimes he got to anticipate them popping open. You know what I mean? And he's got to get up inside, keep his eyes downfield, feel the rush, don't look at the rush. If you see him and when he try to scrum outside and he put that football down, that means he's taking his eyes off downfield. And then, they got to do some rub routes, some get those guys in bunch formations and rub, because people lock it up, and you just can't allow 4 down linemen to stop your run game. You know what I mean? You can't.
Let me ask you this also, Coach. Do you think adding an H-back or a tight end could help them in the run game?
Ain't no question. And again, that might have to do with recruiting. You know what I mean? Maybe they didn't go out and recruit a couple tight ends. You know what I mean? Or who they got right now ain't the guy who they need. But definitely, I'm big on tight end. To me, you got to have one of those in your offense to be successful. Especially, as you said, and boy, you learning some football, ain't you?
Yeah.
You need a tight end to run the football. You definitely.
Well, I actually seen a game the other day. I can't remember if it was. I believe it was last night. It was the Rams, and how they use the H-back to not only, manipulate the defense, but they use it to get an extra guy in the run game. you know what I mean, by being able to move him in different spots. Sometimes he was the lead blocker, sometimes he was the double teamer, sometimes he would be doing a reach block on a stretch play. Like they used him in all different kind of, and they largely, put him in that same H-back spot, one position back, one position over. And it was surprising to see me that they would run him up in there, almost use him as an extra blocker on like a counter tray or pulling guard almost to increase the numbers on the other side. And I just thought that was an interesting way to use the H-back.
Yeah, you're talking about Higsby for the Rams. He's a heck of a tight end. You can go double tight, three tight, and when you have tight ends in there, you can balance the defense, number one. Number two, you always have that mechanism to throw the football because they are glorified linemen, but also can catch the football. One thing about when I played great teams like that, I slowed the game down. I slowed the game down. Wouldn't take the snap until 5 or 10 seconds on this. And, we kind of took our time and kind of milked the clock as well. And that way the game don't get away from you.
All right, Coach. Now we're about to move on to our next period. And now we're going to talk about something that's near and dear to your heart, which is SWAC football, Coach. And again, there was some awesome SWAC action this past week. Awesome. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through and just, briefly touch on some games and their results. And I'll first say, so what was your thought about the Alabama A&M game? I'll give you my thoughts right off the bat. I thought Alabama A&M would have been able to win this game more handily. But the new coach over at Arkansas obviously, was able to have his guys ready and what turned out to be a really competitive game. So what were your thoughts? And this was on Thursday, Coach. Yeah. They played this one on Thursday.
You got a new coach over there. They just been playing right there solidly for Pine Bluff. They beat Miles College the week before by 1 point. And, he's just now getting his feet wet in the conference. Pine Bluff has always had great players that, come from the Arkansas and Memphis area. But A&M, Coach Maynard down there, he does a good job on the offensive side of the ball. Got to be able to stop some folks. They throw the ball well, and they lost last week, which I thought they would win. But A&M was one of the top teams on the West. On the east side of the SWAC. And one of the biggest games is Florida A&M going to be coming up, because right now Florida A&M is walking through the east side.
Oh man, yeah, it looks that way, Coach. Moving on, we have Mississippi State. They took a shellacking from North Carolina Central. They're still winless. Mississippi State has a first year. Mississippi Valley State has a first year coach. North Carolina Central is the defending Black College National Champion, led by Trey Oliver. This is the kind of outcome everyone expected. Mississippi Valley, I don't know what to say about those guys, but they definitely was playing a formidable foe in it, and they got shellacked. What is your thoughts on that game, Coach?
Yeah, I talked to Coach Oliver before he was going down to UCLA, who I think is a brilliant coach. One of his biggest things he said is that, it's a money game, that he's not going to go down there and, get his quarterback hurt, but we're going to go down there and try to win. And, if things get out of hand, he's going to let everybody play. Mississippi Valley State is a school that in the SWAC that I had an opportunity to play against. And, I don't have nothing against this young coach, but, they need somebody to come in there that got a vast recruiting background, got a background of coming into programs and taking over. I don't know why they do this over and over and over and over again. They one team that's never won a SWAC championship. So they'll take a shellacking and they might not even win a game this year.
Wow, Coach. And let's move on to your alma mater against a very formidable foe. They went into Grambling without the services of Andrew Body, and they get beat by Grambling 35-23. Let's look at the box score on this game because of course, without Andrew Body, you want to look at how efficient the quarterback position was for Texas Southern, and looking at Jace Wilson, who came in relief of Texas Southern. You can look at it and say he was 14 for 24, 154 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's a good day for any quarterback. However, but you also have Miles Crawley from Grambling, who was 14 of 23 for 195 and 2 touchdowns. Again, the game was decided in large part, in my opinion, right here, Coach. And you always talked about you've always been one to, even though you have a very extensive background passing the football, but you say the running game is a key, and this is where the game was really decided here. Texas Southern ran for 118 yards. The quarterback only had 6 yards. You would expect Andrew Body, if he was there, he would get a few more. And then over here at Grambling, they had 282 yards on 48 carries. They were committed to the run, obviously, and then they had a great performance by Chase Williams. Coach, how many games are you really going to lose when you run for 282 yards?
Well, not many. Texas Southern is it's a 5-year program, and they get Andrew Body hurt, and Jace Wilson is a transfer from Fordham, which is a Houston guy. And when I look at the stats, to me, they're not letting Jason, who's a passer, a much better passer than Body is, but they letting him. He's not throwing the ball as much as they let Body throw. Body played Prairie and threw the ball 38 times. Remember we talked about that. And then we
we did.
And that was the crazy part about it. They having problems there. Anytime and you're hearing the stories about Body. Is he hurt? Did they just move somebody in the spot? You hear all the rumblings around that team. And I think they got some inner problems that's going on in the locker room, and the coach got to try to keep a hold of that football team together. And you look at Grambling coming in their 2nd year, and you look at Texas Southern coming in their 5th year as a coach, and this shouldn't happen. That score should be definitely backwards. Texas Southern should be a team that this year, with a coach that's been there for 5 years, one of the top programs in the conference, but unfortunately they're not. And if you looked at time of possession, Grambling held the ball much longer than they did. And 14 out of 28, ain't real good. You completed 24, you under 50% almost. So they got some problems, and they get a freebie this week. It's homecoming, and they're bringing a team in from out of town that's 0-5. They just started football 2 years ago, so hopefully that might give them a jump start and get things on the right track.
Coach, I just realized that Texas Southern is winless, Coach.
Yes.
Going into homecoming being winless, I wonder what kind of support they're going to get.
Well, you have a lot of people on campus, but I don't know if they're going to walk into the game. That's kind of been happening. You got 10,000 people on campus, and your crowd is 4,000. Something wrong with that picture.
It's tough. It's tough going into a homecoming winless. They already have 2 SWAC losses, and the problem is those 2 SWAC losses are to teams in the West. So, and Prairie View, both Prairie View and Grambling are expected to be, in my opinion, among those teams at the very top. So, again, I think
one thing about it, Texas Southern has dug a big hole, and I've been around the SWAC, a long time, and you don't win your side with 2 losses. You don't. You're either 6-1 or 7-0, and I think that's still how it goes. But And then now, you're looking at Grambling and Prairie View where they got to lose 3 games.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you still got to play Jackson State, Florida A&M, Bethune-Cookman. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, and it's going to be another long year for Texas Southern.
So, Coach, but I also want to say that you look at Grambling, in previous years, they've gotten off to a pretty tough start with their SWAC season. Almost each time Hugh Jackson has been there, the two years that Hugh Jackson I guess he's been there 1 year. The 1 year that Hugh Jackson has been there, he got off to a slow start in SWAC last year, right?
Right.
Now he gets off start 1-1, 1-0, and at the end of the day, his offense has been the most prolific offense in the SWAC so far, right?
He scored 10 against LSU, which was good, but he scored them early too. And Hampton ended up beating him in a close game. So he was in the game with Hampton. And those kids are building confidence, and Coach Jackson and staff is doing a great job of getting things going in the right direction.
Okay. Next up is this is a game that I was really interested in seeing how it panned out. I thought it would be a game that Florida A&M would handle pretty handedly. It's a game, Coach, that actually it was a 1-score game going into the fourth quarter, which really surprised me, right?
Right.
But Florida A&M was able to extend its home winning streak to 17 against what appeared to be a very scrappy Alabama State team who ended up losing to a Division II team, I think, the week before. So what do you or 2 weeks before? What do you think of that outcome, Coach?
Alabama State is disappointing because players is not their issue. They got some players. Coach Robson has done a great job of recruiting down there and getting some players in. Their problem is they can't score. And in 1AA football, you got to be able to score. The national average is 24. I think the most they've scored this year was 22, or they had one big game. Their thing is they can't move the ball. They have no continuity. They're good on defense. They're good on special teams. They got some guys that can take it to the house. And especially when you're playing for Florida A&M and Coach Simmons. Coach Simmons is a great offensive mind, got a great offensive mind. If you ever looked at any of his teams, he's going to put points up. Alabama State's team they got to find a way to get in the end zone. They got to find a way to settle down on one quarterback and get things done. I've talked with Coach Eddie Robinson on several occasions, about, baby, you got to score. You got to keep that defense off the football field.
Yeah. Now, this game right here went down to the wire, Coach. This next game went down to the wire. Prairie View and Alcorn. And to me, this was a game that I thought was going to be a pivotal in deciding who would win the West.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly thought Alcorn playing at home would pull it out. But we can even look at the stats of this game because I think the stats are important for this one. If you look at Trayvon Conley, he was 12 for 19, which is really efficient with 187 yards, 1 TD, and 1 interception. Aaron Allen for Alcorn had 26 completions on 37 attempts, 287 yards with 2 TDs. This is what's interesting to me, Coach. Prairie View was able to run the ball for 121 yards. However, Alcorn ran it 23 times for 97 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Alcorn was able to pass the ball pretty well, but they had trouble running the ball, right? Mm-hmm. Which is always a problem, i.e., whether it's Colorado or Alcorn, if you can't run it, you're going to have problems. And Prairie View was able to stay in the game. And when it was 20-20, they drove down with their final drive, kicked the field goal as time expires, and won the game against Alcorn. What do you think about this game, and how will it factor in determining the West Division champ?
Let me look at one thing, if you can roll that up.
Okay.
I want to look over the turnover margin in the possession time. And that's at the bottom.
See, I don't have that.
Coach Bubba McDowell is doing a great job of taking over from Coach Dooley. And evidently he's kept some things the same down there. You might look at team stats. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what.
And he's been doing a great job. And you see that possession where, Prairie View had the ball 31 minutes, and it wasn't that many turnovers, but he's been doing a good job down there. And Coach McNair, is just trying to keep things on the straight and narrow. He's got a veteran staff, a veteran team, and I was surprised that Alcorn didn't win this football game. But that tells you how well Bubba McDowell, his staff is doing. And that quarterback for Alcorn could throw the ball. He could do some good things with it. They were evenly matched. And it seems like at the end, Prairie View kind of took control of the game. And like I say all the time, you got to be able to run the football and keep that defense off the field.
Yeah, Trayvon Conley, who is not a prolific passer historically, was able to matriculate the ball down the field at the end of the game, and so that was quite interesting. And actually, Outscript TV, the YouTube channel, I suggest anybody who is a member to go over to his website. He did a breakdown of that final drive, and the offensive coordinator and the quarterback, Trayvon Conley, did some really good things on getting the ball down the field. Didn't take many risks at all because the game was tied, so he didn't take many risks. Made a lot of safe check down kind of passes and just got the ball in field goal range, and they were able to execute a kick at the end. So it was a really really good game, and but I was surprised that Prairie View pulled it out in the end.
Yeah, one of the things that jumped out to me on there, with Alcorn throwing the ball a lot real quick to go over, is they were 4 for 12 on third down, and that's not good at all. You want to be about 40% on third down.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that, Coach. Go ahead.
We good.
All right. Next up was the last SWAC contest. Before we move on to the MEAC, was Jackson State and Bethune-Cookman. Tell me about what your thoughts were on this outcome.
Well, Coach T.C. Taylor is doing a great job down there, and playing some good football and playing some solid football. And I like the way he kind of mixed things up on the offensive side of the ball, and the kids are playing pretty good. And, he knows that he has a target on his back, and every time Jackson State step on the field, they got to come with it. They got to come play. And, Bethune-Cookman with a first-year coach, he's trying to do some good things down there, but it's tough. It's tough on Bethune. They got a lot of obstacles to overcome. And, one of the big things that you got to cut down on the turnovers. And, as you can see, when you go, who's running the football and who's not. At the end of the day, that's who's winning the game. Jackson State rushed for 260 yards to 58. So that means that I was keeping the ball. I was keeping your offense off the field and playing good defense.
Yeah, Coach, we'll take it to look at the team stats, trying to just kind of look at third down conversions and stuff like that, just to kind of see who was efficient. Wow. This is I don't think I've ever seen this before, Coach.
Zero. Didn't make one third down possession.
Didn't convert one third down. And even though Jackson State didn't have a great day on third down, right, they weren't 0 for 14. So right, when you look at it, this game was a lot closer than I originally thought. Bethune-Cookman has been, played Jackson State pretty tough. Coach, let me ask you this: Is this a case of Jackson State playing down to their competition, or just Bethune-Cookman being a lot better than we thought they would be after what happened with Ed Reed and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, but of course they coming out with all that drama that was going on. But if you look at those stats, the third down would jump out to you. And really the biggest thing is Jackson State was able to run the football. And a lot of times you get away from running the football when you should be running it, you're throwing it. A lot of times people get caught up in the showboat of it. These offensive coordinators get caught up in the showboat of it instead of doing what makes you win football games. And that's number one, protecting the football, and number two, throwing the ball too much.
All right, we'll go over the MEAC right quick, Coach, before we get out of here today. We already went over Mississippi and North Carolina Central. Now, this game here is this was kind of uneventful and probably what to be expected, playing a FBS opponent. Delaware State got shellacked by Miami of Ohio, 62-20. The game I want to get to is this next game, which is Coach Dawson Odoms of Norfolk State, formerly the head coach of Southern, beats Townsend. And what do you think about that when you look at Norfolk State beating a Townsend team, and what does that say about where Coach Odoms in his third season has the Norfolk Spartans, I believe, Coach?
Ain't no question he needed this win, and they have a lot of expectation for Coach Odom down there in Norfolk State. As you can see, Townsend, which is a perennial winning program, is down this year. So it was a big win for Norfolk, but it's a down year from Townsend. And Townsend are back, they'll bounce back. But Norfolk State, they got to win. Coach Odom is, like I said, he's from that area. And last year they didn't do as well as they thought they would do. And they jumped out to a good start and, didn't finish the year good at all. But they running that football down there. He running that football. As you can see, he rushed 54 times for 350 yards. He understands what's up and what it's about. And he lost. They had a top quarterback there last year, which got a try at the NFL. I don't think he made it, but he's running the football this year.
Well, Coach, I think they were dealing with some weather from a storm over there in Virginia. A few other games that of interest that a couple of my friends were concerned with. They were concerned about the Fayetteville State and Virginia Union game, which is a two Division II HBCUs, and it was similar. It was a similar situation where they weren't able to throw the ball well. But what's surprising to me is Townsend, even if it was weather, they threw the ball pretty decently, right?
Yeah.
But it looks like they were overwhelmed by the run game when you look at 350 to 140. And I have a sneaky suspicion, Coach, that if we go to team stats, there's going to be a huge disparity in time of possession. What do you think?
Oh no, ain't no question.
Yeah.
There you go. Right there. I mean, sometimes you don't have to watch the game if you know the game. You can those stats. It's always some on the stats that's glaring and jumping out. Now it ain't 100% proof, but it's damn near 80. If you winning in the turnover game, if you winning in the first down game, and I'm saying significantly, not by 1 or 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
If you're winning in that rushing game, 9 times out of 10, you winning those football.
You said this on the start of this broadcast that how the running game is very important, and it's proven to be as we've looked at the stats at each one of these contests here shortly here in the SWAC and the MEAC. The running game contributed to the outcome of the game significantly in just about each situation. These are 2 games I want to talk about before we get out of here. And one is, what do you think about Morgan State losing in a nail biter, a double overtime against a FBS? Is it no? They're they're an FCS opponent, but they're a formidable FCS opponent from the CAA. What do you think about Morgan State being in control of the game and then coming back, tying it up 10-10 in the fourth quarter, and then losing in double overtime. What does that say about Morgan State and Coach Damian Wilson?
First of all, Damian Wilson is doing a super job at Morgan. It's not a game that I've seen him not be out of, and it's his first year. And he's one of those guys that always wanted this job and wanted this, and he's come from Bowie State, and he's doing a heck of a job down there. Albany is a traditional winning program. You know, they've always had good programs, and it's remarkable that they kept the game close the whole game. And he's going to be hard to be reckoned with, Coach Wilson in Morgan State. You just watch Morgan State. You know, a lot of people been wanting him up there. You know, and he's been right across the street over at Bowie and winning the CIAA championship. He's going to do a great job there at Morgan State.
And the last game in the MEAC we're going to go over is the Citadel lost, to South Carolina State, who had been up to this point, who had been having a really tough season up to this point, and they get a much needed win in Buddy Pugh's final season against the Citadel. What do you think about that victory, Coach?
You know, the Citadel is the Army boys. You know, they're the intelligent boys, but Buddy Pugh. You know, you can't say enough about a guy that's been in one school and won, a whole bunch of MEAC championships, and the thing he's done over there, and and that's a good win for him. You know, sometimes you need to play teams like this, during the season to get yourself back on track. Don't count South Carolina out now. They'll sneak up on you. The year he won the national championship, he came in there with an ugly record against Dion and was able to get in there, and those guys were able to win the Black College National Championship. So don't count him out. He's gonna keep coaching them hard. He's gonna keep keeping them on the right track. And this is the type of games that you need to get yourself and get your team on the right track.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to point out that Corey Fields, the much maligned Corey Fields, who had been struggling much of this season and last season, came out against the Citadel and was 19 for 25 for 301 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Like that's a hot game for a quarterback, isn't it, Coach?
No, ain't no question. Evidently the run game was running well because they really didn't just come out and just throw the ball all over the field. It seems like when he was throwing it, it was going for touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? I mean, 300 some yards and you only threw the ball that many times. That's saying a lot of your players caught balls and was able to go the distance.
Well, it's exactly right. One guy had 3 catches for 2 touchdowns, and the other guy had 3 catches and 1 touchdown. So
and look at the longest. 58, 26, 35. They were catching and going to the house.
Yeah, they were doing big things with the ball. Coach, this has been another amazing show. This has been episode 2, man. I certainly really enjoy doing this show with you each and every week, man. The first show, we got a lot of positive feedback again, and we look forward to continuing and doing this next week. Did you want to take a peek at the upcoming games? So if there are any of note that you wanted to make a comment on before we
I tell you what, we can go over our predictions.
All right, cool.
First one is SWAC, Lincoln, and Texas Southern.
Okay.
Texas Southern homecoming.
Let me get him up here, Coach, because we can
we do a prediction every week.
Okay. All right. So here we go. We're gonna go just like ESPN has it. We got Tuskegee and Alabama A&M. I'll go first on this one. I got Alabama A&M, Coach.
I'm gonna take Tuskegee on the upset.
Oh, okay. I got you.
They got a good program over there.
You go ahead and go first on this one.
All right. Southern Arkansas Pine Bluff. I think Southern get things rolling. I'm gonna take Southern.
All right. I agree with you, Coach. I'm also gonna take Southern. What about Lincoln and Your alma mater, Texas Southern.
Well, of course, it's the toilet bowl, but it's homecoming. And, I got to take my alma mater, Texas Southern.
I think I'm agree with you too, Coach. Now, this is an interesting game. We got a matchup of two teams who are 0-1 in the SWAC, 0-1, and they desperately need a victory in a must-win game. Who's going to come out with the victory? Alcorn State or Alabama State?
I'm going to go with Alcorn State. Alabama State got problems putting the ball in the end zone, and you got a quarterback over at Alcorn State that can really get it done. They scored. They beat them 24. They hit 24 points. That's game over.
All right, Coach. I don't think that we'll disagree on this one either. We got Florida A&M traveling to Mississippi Valley. They got a date in Ida Bena. So what do you think about?
Won't it be close, Coach? Won't it be close?
All right.
45-7.
And you think 45-7? Okay. I won't give you a score, but I'll definitely say that Florida A&M definitely should. Fam, you should definitely win that game. And
right.
This is clearly the game of the week, right?
Right. I'll be right there up in the sweet box, sipping on some good Jack and barbecue. And I want to give a shout out to Al Wash and his team, the Al Wash team. They've been doing this game for 45 plus years, man. And it's going to be played in the Cotton Bowl State Farm Classic game, Grambling and Prairie View.
All right, Coach. Now, you got – let me put this together. You got Hugh Jackson in his second year, right?
Right.
You got
Prairie View and
Bubba McDowell in his second year. Both of these teams, when you think about it, they're on the uptick, in my opinion, right? They're both ascending programs.
Right.
This is a game that will determine who has arrived, in my opinion.
Right.
In this game, who's going to win, Coach?
Oh, man, this is a hard one. I'm going to go with Prairie View A&M game winner. Now, I'm going to go with Grambling. I like Grambling's quarterback. I'm going to take Grambling this one.
So, Coach, my issue with Grambling is they haven't been able to stop anybody up to this point, Coach.
Right.
And with an explosive quarterback like Trayvon Conley, he's not a refined passer, but he's a playmaker, Coach. And I think he's gonna be trouble for Grambling. And Prairie View has proven to have a pretty competent defense week after week. So I'm gonna take Prairie View in this one, in a squeaker over Grambling.
Right. Prairie View got a problem stopping the run. And that's why I say Coach is going to exploit that, and he's going to pound the ball, and he's going to keep that quarterback off the field.
All right, we got a few games from Howard. We got Howard and Robert Morris. I got Howard in that one.
Yeah, definitely Howard jump on Robert Morris.
All right, now this is Morgan State traveling to New Haven to Connecticut to take on Yale, right?
Right.
This, Yale is 0-2. Morgan State has been pretty formidable so far. Who do you got in this one?
I'm gonna take Morgan State.
I'm gonna take Yale. I'm gonna take Yale in this one. I think traveling to New Haven is gonna be a bit too much for Morgan. They haven't put up many points all year, and in a close game, I gotta think the home team's gonna win, Coach.
Well, I think Morgan put it together. I think they've been playing close each game every week. I just don't see Yale having enough athletes to keep up with them.
Okay. All right. Virginia, Lynchburg, and Delaware. This is the toilet bowl as well, Coach.
Ain't no question. And I'm going to go with Delaware.
Yeah, I'm going to go.
Lynchburg is a perennial losing program. And it's still that way until they make a commitment down there. It's going to be that way.
All right, now this is a really good game. Even though North Carolina Central is 0-4, this is a matchup of this is a previous MEAC matchup,
You
right?
mean A&T, North Carolina A&T.
Yeah, North Carolina A&T and Norfolk. This is would in previous years this would have been a conference game, huh, Coach?
Oh no, ain't no question.
And so when you look at this, can Dawson Odoms get it done against North Carolina A&T? And and will A&T go 0-4?
North Carolina A&T became one of the top black schools because of their football program.
Absolutely.
And they slipping, and Coach Washington stepped down this year. So they got a new coach and they got a new way they doing things. And Coach Odom needs this win. So I'm gonna ride with Coach Odom. I'm gonna take Norfolk over A&T.
I'll take A&T on this one, Coach. I think going into A&T actually needing this game in a big rivalry game, I think they definitely will get it together and win this game. Now, this is an interesting game for your good friend Trey Oliver, Coach. Let me kind of explain this one. Last year, North Carolina Central was blew out in this game.
Right.
Campbell's coming in 2-2. North Carolina Central 3-1. How do you think this will turn out? And this is in Durham. Yeah. So this is a home game.
I know Coach over at Campbell, and he's a good dude.
Coach Mentor?
Yeah. Went to University of Nebraska. And, of course, this is going to be a real, real good game. Campbell being a well-established program as well as North Carolina Central. I'm going to go with Campbell. Because they're going to pound, they're going to run the ball, and I know my man Trey going to be like, oh, no, Coach, you didn't go with it. But I go with Campbell. They real solid, good football program as well as Central, and I'll go with Campbell.
Hey, Coach, I want you to know once you get him on the show, I'm gonna tell him you pick Campbell on this one, Coach.
Oh no, I'm definitely, right now we just trying to find the time, and I'm gonna get him on the show.
All right, Coach, I appreciate it. Hey, I got to take North Carolina Central. I'm a big fan of Davius Richards, man. I think that quarterback is outstanding, and so I think he's the next HBCU black college quarterback to start a game in the NFL, man. I really think he's special, and so I take Davius Richards and North Carolina Central on this one, Coach. Coach, again, this has been amazing, Coach. To go through this and just talk about the games, man. We're gonna be back next week. We're gonna be on time next week, though, Coach. Coach, I know you're a stickler for time, and so this is unlike you to get started late. And so we will make sure that we're started on time next week. We went 3 minutes over, Coach. We're almost there, Coach. We almost got it. 1 hour exact. So you got anything you want to say before we take them out, Coach?
Man, as I always say, man, when you feel yourself at the end of the rope, you tie a knot and hold on tight, because ain't nobody bad like you.
My name is JM&E, and I won $500 on the lunch money from the Keeping Up with the Joneses Bracket Challenge.
It's Sybil Wilkes with what you need to know. Today, it's Monday, October 2nd, 2023. Number 1, with the help of Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and House Democrats, Speaker Kevin McCarthy was able to get a bill passed that kept the government open and federal employees working. Despite demands made by a group of conservative House members, McCarthy produced a short-term bill to keep the government fully funded for another 45 days. The successful passage in the House was due in large part by the 209 votes cast by Democrats. The bill moved to President Biden's desk, where he signed it into law just moments before the 11:59 deadline Saturday night. Number 2, Donald Trump is expected to address charges in person Monday in the fraud case brought against him by New York State Attorney General Letitia James. Last week, Trump was dealt a serious setback with the decision handed down by Judge Arthur Engoron of the New York State Supreme Court. The judge found Trump, members of his family, and the Trump Organization liable for fraud in overvaluing his assets by as much as $2.2 billion. Number 3, rates of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, in children are skyrocketing. According to a CDC report, 11% of children ages 4 to 17 have the disorder, a 16% jump since 2007, and a 53% rise over the last decade. Another study of nearly 850,000 5 to 11-year-olds found that African American children are diagnosed with ADHD at much higher rates than children of other races and ethnicities. Number 4, a man who prosecutors say ordered the 1996 killing of rapper Tupac Shakur was arrested and charged with murder Friday in a long-awaited breakthrough in one of hip-hop's most enduring mysteries. Dwayne Davis has long been known to investigators as one of 4 suspects identified early in the investigation. He is not the accused gunman, but was described as the group's ringleader by authorities Friday at a news conference and in court. In Nevada, you can be charged with a crime, including murder, if you help someone commit that crime. Number 5, God's will is his conscience, deciding, willing, and choosing to do something. Theologians have discussed for years God's will having 2 parts, his secret will and his revealed will. God's secret will refers to him being sovereign and ruler over all. Then there is his revealed will. That is his will that is in the Bible. All the rules and regulations that are laid out in the good book, for example, the 10 Commandments, they're part of the revealed will of God. To read more about God's will, check out today's Ministry Monday. Here's your daily inspiration from Yogi's Jewels. True compassion means feeling another's pain and being moved to help relieve it. Join me today live on YouTube and Facebook at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central with social justice contributor Coy Malone, comedians Chris Paul and Dominique as we discuss today's top headlines and more. Thank you to our What You Need to Know partners, the American Heart Association and Black Health Matters. Barbara Scotia College and HBCU in Concord, North Carolina needs our help. The What You Need to Know team is asking supporters, alumni, and friends of Barbara Scotia to help them meet their immediate and pressing needs by donating to help Barbara Scotia rise. Please join thousands of donors from around the world who are stepping up to save one of the nation's oldest HBCUs. Please visit SybillWilkes.com for more information. And celebrate Black filmmakers rooted in the HBCU culture at HBCU First Look. It's happening November 10th through the 12th at Howard University. Visit HBCUFirstLook.com for more information. I'm Sybil Wilkes. Be informed, be empowered.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.